color by numbers can be made in Google Sheets. And the really cool part about making them in Google Sheets is that while we are virtual, the students can complete them as if they were a worksheet. So the first thing I like to do is I like to start by merging some cells for directions. So I'm going to select the cells I want. I'm going to come up and say merge, and then I'm going to type in the directions. So once I do that, I am going to come over here, and I like to insert a table. I tend to make it 10 questions. So I'm going to make it 10 questions and then leave a spot for my directions for my layout. So I'm going to go ahead and click add a border. I'm going to border it up so the kids know. Then I'm going to write question here, answer here. And then I would fill in my questions like 1 + 1, 2 + 3. And you can do this with harder material. I teach middle school, and we've made these with Algebra 1 material, with geometry material. So just because I'm using this simple example, it doesn't mean you can't make it more complex. You can add more rows to your table if you want. If you're looking for one that's already made, you can always check out my website, PyRScared, and grab one that's already made. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in all my rows. And once I filled in all my rows with their information, then I'm going to go back and put in all the answers, and then I got to figure out what picture do I want to make. So if you are not sure what picture you might want to make, you can go to Google and you can Google pixel art. And when you Google pixel art, a bunch of options will pop up. And then that can kind of be like your guiding image of how you want to make it. And I did this with my students and had them create their own image, and they made amazing pictures. And you can see those on my Twitter account. They did awesome. So this is something that you can create for the students, or the students can make themselves. So once I have my information, and now I'm going to make my picture. So I want all my columns to be the same width, and instead of individually adjusting them all, I'm going to select the ones I want. And I typically use about 15 columns. Sometimes I use a little bit more. It depends on how big the picture is. But I want it to be able to fit without them scrolling. That's not a requirement. It's just something that I like. So I'm going to adjust one of the columns till it looks like it's a square, and then it will automatically adjust the rest. From there, I select the columns that I'm not using, and I delete them. You can always add them back. So delete them, right click. Oh, I let go of control, sorry. So I needed to hold control while I did it. Right click, and then you click delete columns. And then once I make my picture, I also will delete all these rows because it will bother me that they're just here. So to make my picture, I think I'm going to make a present. So to make a present, it's like a square. So I'm going to make a square. I'm going to fill in. You don't have to do this step. It's actually an extra step. I do it because I'm a visual person, and it helps me see how it needs to be laid out. And then I just go back and I delete all these numbers. Again, this is not something that you have to do, but it just helps me see what I need to do. The other piece is when you're starting out making these, sometimes it helps if you go ahead and label these based on the answer you're going to use. So if I labeled all these 2, and then I know when I format this, I format it as a 2. Once you get used to making them, you won't need to do that anymore. You'll have a visual of what you need to do. So I've got my outline of my present. I'm going to add some ribbon up, and then my ribbon across, and then I think I'm going to add a bow at the top. I'm going to add my bow real quick. Okay, so I have that all laid out. So now I need to format it so that these respond to this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the cells that I would like. So I like to keep the students kind of guessing like what the picture is going to be. So I'm going to highlight these, and I'm going to go to Format, Conditional Formatting, and you're going to have a bar pop up over here. And so under Conditional Formatting, I am going to tell it how I want it to format my picture. So I want it to do a custom formula, and then I'm going to pick the cell. So equals $, and I want it to equal the first answer, which is 2, which is in cell B, $4, and I want it to respond when B is 2. So when B is not 2, I don't want it to respond. And I think I want my present to be green. So done. So now the cool part. So if I take this 2 out and I make it 0, so if the students were to enter 0, nothing's going to happen. If they enter 2, happens. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to format for every single answer. And so I wouldn't do it in a pattern. That way the students aren't like, oh, well, I know what's going to come next. So like I might do this one next. So format. So the next one, the next answer is in B, cell B5. So equals $B, $5. And I want it when B5 is equal to 5, I want it to respond. And I think I want my ribbon to be red. So you're going to go through and do this formatting for all of them. So now that you have gone through and you formatted all of it, you're going to want to get rid of the answers. So get rid of your answers. And then as you see, like colors are disappearing. And then the other thing is you're going to want to get rid of all of the numbers here. So I'm just going to go through. I'm going to delete them all. So once you go through and you delete all the numbers, this is what your picture looks like. Like I said before, I'm going to delete all these rows because it bothers me. It's not a requirement. It just bothers me. So I'm just going to go through, right-click, delete, right-click, delete. And eventually I'm going to have all the rows gone. Now that all my rows are gone, I want to test to make sure that it works. So I am going to add in my numbers. So 2, put in 3. I'm just testing so you guys can see that it works. So once I put in all my numbers, I will have a completed picture. And this is where you have to decide, do you want the students to submit this picture? Is this a self-checking picture? What do you want the students to do with their information? So once they fill in the whole piece, all your picture will appear. And it will be exactly as you laid it out. So when I put in this final piece, my picture will be done. So now that my picture is done, I need to share it with students. So I would come up, I would click share. And when I share this with my students, I want to ensure that they cannot change the formatting and it doesn't share really weird. So what you can do is you're going to click share. And then when you make a copy, force them to make a copy of your presentation. So this is how you can make a color by number in Google Sheets.